Thank you all. This is the April 1st meeting of the St. Albans City Council. I'm Mayor Tim Smith. Happy April Fools. That's a good little joke to start the meeting. So,
Old man.
yeah, I know. He's about half my size. So we're going to start with our annual board appointments. We have a list of regularly open positions, the terms expiring, people applying. We have a list, a pretty good list, but we'll hit it at a good clip. Let's start with the Development Review Board. There are two openings for 3-year terms, both ending in 2022. Terms are expiring for Brent Brigham and Mike McInerney. Both would like to be reappointed. And then Jonathan Giroux, who's with us tonight, would like to be appointed as an alternate. We've had a quorum issue with the DRB in the last couple of months for one reason or another. You know, people that were abutting landowners and whatnot. We feel it'd be very helpful to have an alternate. Jonathan stepped up for that. So let's make a motion to reappoint Brent Brigham and Mike McInerney for 3-year terms and to appoint Jonathan Giroux as an alternate for a term of
1 year.
1 year. Okay, somebody please make that motion.
I'll make the motion that we reappoint Brent Brigham and Mike McInerney.
That's, yep.
That's a tongue twister. And Mr. Giroux as the for, let's see, Brent and Mike are how many years?
3 years each.
3 years each.
And Jonathan.
Would be 1 year.
1 year.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome, Jonathan. It's the first position you've taken with the town. You have anything you'd like to say?
No,
Off the cuff?
I'm glad to be appointed to that position and look forward to.
Well, we'll come back to you a little bit further down the ladder here. See you on later.
It's a first of many.
Yeah,
Well
there we
paid.
go. We've also got we've got an opening on the Planning Commission for a term that I held that Erin Creeley filled in for when I resigned, and she'd like to be reappointed to a 3-year term ending in 2022. If someone would like to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Erin Creeley for 3 years to the Planning Commission.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Erin. 3 years, 2022. Only hear great things from the Planning Commission. Thank you. Regional Planning Commission, we had one change just before. Bob Johnson rescinded his request to be reappointed. So right now we have 2 open positions for terms of 1 year each. And we have Al Vogel looking to be reappointed, and Sarah Had, who comes with a very impressive resume, would like to be appointed to represent the town at the Regional Planning Commission. Would anybody like to make a motion to appoint both Al Vogel and Sarah Had to represent the town on the Regional Planning Commission for a term of 1 year each?
I'll make a motion to for Al Vogel for 1 year and Sarah Had for 1 year for the Regional Planning Commission.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have 2 ayes and nays.
Oh, aye.
Aye. So we have 3. Stanley?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so we have a 301. Motion carries. So we'd like to thank Bob Johnson for his service representing the town at Regional. And we'd like to welcome Sarah. Thank you very much for coming forward. Let's move down to the Transportation Advisory Council because that's a function of Regional. So currently we were represented by Alan Mashter, which makes a lot of sense. A lot of towns send their DPW directors or road foremen to represent them on that council. It's called the TAC. That's how we refer to it as an acronym. But so we've got terms expiring for Alan Mashter and Mr. Bill Nyan. Alan would like to be reappointed, and Sarah would like to be appointed to go with Alan. Is that true?
I think there was an or.
Or okay, so we're good.
I think there was an or in either regional planning or TAC.
Okay, perfect.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Al, Bill doesn't want to be reappointed?
We hadn't heard.
We don't usually appoint the select board representative to that board without talking to the current select board.
Okay.
We did not ask.
Is there anybody on the board right now that would like to join Alan in attending those meetings? Or usually we're at the Highgate Airport or.
They change.
Sometimes it might be at the hospital. This last one was at City Hall in St. Albans. So,
I only went to one or two with you, but they're very informative, and it's a round table basically where all communities get together and share what they're going through or any, county-wide projects. Correct me if I'm wrong?
It's a lot of the state projects, and we have a say in what happens in our Franklin County area. It also represents Grand Isle County also. So bridge jobs, paving jobs, those jobs as such, we grade them in which we feel are necessary. And then that plays a big part in the state determining if it gets done or not.
Okay.
So the information collected from your meetings goes to the state as a recommendation?
Yep,
How often does it meet?
every other month
Is it a night meeting or?
it is,
Every other month?
yes.
So if
Anybody?
I mean, if nobody else would want to, I would go, but if you would like to.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, so let's have either Stanley or Jessica make a motion to reappoint Alan Mascher and to appoint Vice Chair Bruce Cheeseman to represent the town on the Transportation Advisory Council for terms of 1 year each.
I'll make a motion to nominate Alan Master and Bruce Cheeseman for a 1 year term on the Transportation Advisory Board, along with Sarah Had.
Well, no, Sarah's gonna serve on the Regional Planning Commission. We're only appointing two. It'll be Alan
Okay.
and just Bruce.
So they'll pull that back off, Sarah, if you don't mind, and
Okay.
stay
I
with
think she
the
doesn't
first
mind.
two.
Okay, so motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0?
Yep.
Okay, 4-0. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now we have the Northwest Regional Planning's Clear Water Advisory Committee. Now, this is traditionally a committee that we do not see much of an interest in people applying to represent us. Al Vogel has been on it for a year or two, 3 years. He generally takes it because nobody else will, but he does pour a good amount of work into it. Alan?
They hold that meeting just before the TAC meetings these days. So, I had told them that I would represent. If Al still wants to do it, he can, but it's only an additional hour to my night, just getting there a little early, so I don't mind doing it.
Okay. Do we
So
want to?
that's solid, that's, oh, Clearwater,
Right,
I'm ahead of
the
myself.
Clearwater
We can jump
Advisory
back
Committee.
up.
Yeah.
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 So, do we want to maybe ask Al if he'd be willing to rescind for Alan, or do we want to appoint Alan, or how does the
I
board
don't think
feel?
you officially have to talk to Al. I mean, if someone else has expressed interest, I think that's fine.
Would we? Would we?
I think he'll be okay with that.
I'll go with that.
Okay. So why don't we? Would someone please make a motion to appoint Alan Mascher to represent the town for a term of 1 year on NRPC's Clean Water Advisory Committee?
I'll make a motion to appoint Alan Mester for 1 year on the Northwest Regional Planning Clearwater Advisory Committee.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We've got another one of these positions that Al just takes pretty regularly. He attends most of their meetings. It's Northwest Vermont Solid Waste Management District. The terms are for 1 year. Al said that he would like to be reappointed. Is there anybody here that objects to that for any reason? Okay, we'll take a motion to reappoint Al to a term of 1 year to represent the town on the Northwest.
I'll make a motion to appoint Al for the Northwest Vermont Solid Waste Management District position for a 1 year term.
Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Constable, it's an elected position, but nobody ran for it, so the board now needs to appoint one. We did the same thing last year for Mr. Everett Hulbert. He said he would like to be reappointed. Carrie, how's the town administration feel about that?
I'm fine with that, and actually, we have some training scheduled for him if he's approved this spring.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, before you do that, Sarah's, anything you're interested in?
Oh, don't-
Just kidding.
April Fools, right?
April Fool.
Right? She's gonna
Would anybody like to make that motion to reappoint Everett?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Everett Holbert as constable for 1 year.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Would anybody like to be the second constable? We recently learned that there is a badge somewhere.
There is.
There is.
I have it.
It might be a Yoplait cap with a safety
is
pin through
real.
it, but it's
It's
okay.
real.
It's real. You got it on the record.
Our constable services, though, have no legal law enforcement.
There's no gun,
There's no gun.
one bullet.
Right.
We're gonna move on, but if anybody would like to call in and ask to be appointed, the call-in number is 802-524-2415.
It is a volunteer
If you're looking for
position
the
and
public,
not paid.
why don't you explain what this position is? What does he do?
The second constable, to be honest with you, I think it's just the duties of the constable when the constable's not around.
Which is serving warrants if we need it, providing service, much like a sheriff's department does.
Okay.
But because they have no law enforcement authority, you're right, it's very limited at this point.
So, anybody that
Sometimes
might
help
wanna,
at town meeting day.
anybody that might wanna call in. But, town agent, so we had appointed Carrie this in the past.
Right.
Before, and it's kind of redundant to reappoint the town manager because the town manager really has a lot of the same.
Well, it's not only it's not just redundant, it's not an allowed
Okay, fair enough.
dual role, I guess.
It's actually in the legislature
Yeah.
right now.
I can't remember the
Hard to
word.
Change.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have that person hold those two positions.
So we have an exciting.
Oh, so
thing.
it can't be held by another elected
It can't
official?
be held by myself because I have statutory duties that conflict
Okay.
with the duties here.
Gotcha.
So Mr. Bernie Boudreau, former select board chair, said that he would take the position. And now I can read the duties of a town agent real quickly.
That's
So-
changing those. So.
It is gonna
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
I'll read what it is right now, just to have it out there. So, in doing research, it sounded like a ways back, a few decades, select boards didn't really have the statutory authority to represent themselves in a court proceeding, so they would appoint a town agent, or it's really an elected position. You see it on the ballot every year, usually with nobody's name. So I'll read this out. This might not be exactly from statute, but the town agent is used to prosecute and defend suits. The select board now has that authority, thus the town agent's duties consist merely of assisting when litigation is in progress at the request of the select board. That's very important, and it's generally not a very active position. So Bernie's basically saying if we end up litigating anything and we'd like some advice, he would be willing to be appointed the person that would be able to be invited into our executive sessions and review confidential material and give advice. I think that'd be very valuable. Currently, I don't think we're litigating anything that would require that. I know we have, I think, a junk ordinance ticket in the Judicial Bureau right now, but other than that, we might not call on him all year, but if anybody would like to make a motion to appoint Bernie Boudreau as town agent for a term of 1 year.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bernie Boudreau as town agent for the town of St. Albans for a period of 1 year.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 4-0, welcome back, Bertie. Just when you think you're out, we pulled you back in.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Exactly. So, we have the Northwest Vermont Rail Trail Council. It's one position for a 1 year term. It's currently filled by Robert Bissett. He'd like to be reappointed. Throughout the year, he sent us minutes on a regular basis. He's very active in the council, and he attends the occasional Parks Committee meeting, and I've worked with him, and I think it would be good for us to reappoint him.
I think he did a very good job.
He's a good point person, and we recently had someone who lives abutting the rail trail complain about speed, and I sent them to Robert. He was great. He actually encouraged her to attend a meeting. She talked with the whole council about her concerns with speed, so he was very helpful.
That's great. Would somebody like to make a motion to reappoint him?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Robert Bissett for the Northwest Vermont Rail Trail Council for 1 year.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Welcome back, Robert. Thank you for your service. The tree warden, again, one position for 1 year. I don't know that we are really required to fill it. I think, would it make sense to have Alan be appointed it just to delegate that authority.
Poor Alan, he's not gonna wanna come to any more
Well-
meetings. We've had
Whenever
very,
there's a tree in the town right of way, the tree warden gets called in, right?
no, I mean,
Oh,
largely
is
it's
that
just
not it?
Alan and I that handle it at this point.
Well, and like, what would the tree warden do if we did have one?
If there's a dispute on a prized maple or something, I think
Right,
they,
or you might check out bad trees.
Usually in that
Earmark.
case, yeah, usually in that case, I call the state forester, Nancy Patch,
So we want to.
local, and she comes right in, and it's a good neutral ground.
So would the board like to treat this as the same way in the second constable and just leave it open?
You think it's necessary to still have it?
I don't actually.
I don't either.
Maybe we could take a look at what it would take to remove that position entirely. Now we're getting near the end here. This will be our last appointment for tonight. It's the Police Advisory Committee, and formerly known as the Public Safety Advisory Committee. Current members are Al Vogel, Carrie Johnson, Bob Cross, Mark LeClaire, and retired Admiral Warren Ham. Jonathan Giroux just got appointed to be an alternate on the DRB, would like us to appoint him to serve on the Police Advisory Committee. In reading Jonathan's letter of interest, he cited the fact that he's a little younger, he has a young child, it's, a different angle of representation. I support his nomination. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay?
I believe the resolution on that was signed in 2011 says we needed one select board member, town manager, police chief, and a minimum of 3 citizens. So if we have more than 3, that's great.
Right, yep, there's no limit.
That's great.
Yeah, there's no limit
There's
on it.
a lot of work to be done on that board.
So before we,
They should be meeting a minimum of once every 6 weeks. It's been very lax in the last 2 years. The minutes of the meeting will be kept and reviewed by everybody.
It's a pretty important board, I think.
It is.
And communication from
And the reason they
that board's
started in
important.
2011, it was the dispute with the city on policing practices. And I know Carrie has done a lot of work on it. When I was on, that they were doing calls over Project SOAR. I don't know how many times, and
Yeah, lots.
they really wasn't needed. Carrie, chief police, got involved with Ted Maple,
Yes,
and they resolved it, and now we're down to very few calls. There was one other big change that was made, so I think if you're productive on that, we could save the police some, not false calls, but unnecessary calls.
yep,
So,
we're looking to shift it back from a public safety advisory to more of a police advisory, as it was
And
originally intended.
I just showed Brendan Diesel tonight on Facebook. St. Albans is the most dangerous place to live in the state of Vermont.
Stanley had found some data that had a list of the top 10 safest and I think the top 3 dangerous places to live in the state. And the way that data was compiled, St. Albans was actually atop the list in the #1 spot for the most.
Followed by Barry, followed by Rutland.
So, anything we could do to look into keeping us safer. So if anybody would make a motion to appoint Jonathan Giroux to the Police Advisory Committee. Do we attach terms? I don't see a note. for
there
terms.
were not terms on there. We can look at that. You can always amend things later, I mean,
We can look back at it.
but I will look at that.
So I'll make it a motion to appoint Jonathan Giroux and to reappoint Al Vogel, Carrie Johnson, Bob Cross, Mike LeClaire, and Mark LeClaire, and Warren Ham.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, our last note on appointments before we move on is that the Collins Purley Board has one position opening up on June 30th of this year. One position for a 3-year term. Some folks have said that they were interested, including Mr. Cheeseman. If anybody else is interested, please contact the town manager's office and we'll get you on the list when we do that in June. Okay, moving on. We have warrants. Stanley, would you like to kick us off with the general
I'll start
warrants?
off with the general warrants. The general warrants, we had 89 invoices for a total of $83,738.21. The largest on this one was Accent Consulting for $47,558.50. And the next one was Connor Contracting for $10,625. We had 7 tax overpayment invoices, 11 Green Mountain Power that they really don't total up much, but they 14 from Fisher Automotive. So you're buying a lot of parts, Alan.
Gone through a few breaks lately.
I mean, that's the bulk. It was a lot of small items, and then there were 1s and 2s after that. I guess the question that I have, and I'm glad you're here, Anna, that's what Carrie Wynn got. Now that we've been approved through the voters, we said we would take money out of the general fund, and we would track it, and for DPW location. And that was to give that money back to the general fund. So now that we've got not a contract, but we do have a contract with Matt for the 48,000. How do we separate that so we know we're not gonna violate any of the amounts of dollars that we said we were going to spend?
We can do that one or two ways. We can wait until June 30th and just have the expenses still flowing through the general fund and then replace it from the infrastructure fund back into the general fund. We could wait until then. And then going forward, any expenses would come out of the infrastructure account.
We'll have a new warrant.
We can create the infrastructure account, we can create expenses and revenues within that cost center. So, what you see in front of you are revenue and expense reports for the general fund.
Right.
Going forward, I can give you revenue and expense reports for the infrastructure fund. So you'll be able to see what's coming in and what's being spent.
And we could use our project budget as the expense portion of that.
Right now, it's being tracked in the general fund.
Right, but how do we break the DPW, the only thing we have a contract on, and there we have 4 or 5 categories?
Right.
So we need to
So
look
if
at
you
those
look-
categories so that we know we're gonna
So if
stay.
you look on page 6 of your expense report, you've got, after the Department of Public Works, expense, you have what's called the DPW relocation project.
Yes.
Right.
Those are your expenses so far, to this date, not including what you have in front of you, because I never accept it into the general fund unless you make a motion to approve the warrants.
Right.
So, that's what we've spent. So that money will come back to the general fund out of the infrastructure development fund.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
putting a stake in the ground right here and saying this $150,000.
No, it's
213.
That's the
It's
total
almost-
amount of money so far spent on this DPW relocation project, not including tonight's warrants.
Right.
Tonight's warrants they're in here, aren't they?
No, I
Oh,
can't
right
accept
there,
it
yeah.
until you guys approve that warrant.
We were 154,000, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
I can look at that.
What did we spend to get to that amount? I don't know.
Well, I can get you that information.
We've also
I
asked,
can give you a detailed description on every single line item, so you know who was paid and how much they were paid,
And the date they were paid.
and the date they were paid.
could do that.
I can give
I'd
you a
appreciate
detailed
that.
expense report on every single line item that you see there.
Yeah, at
Oh,
least,
Jim's been killing me. I didn't spill any, I promise.
oh no. Well, we,
Yeah, I can do that for you.
okay. So would you feel
But what's
better
your
about that?
preference? I mean, if we draw the line at the end of the fiscal year,
Well, I think that would be,
It's much more cleaner that way.
I would think that would be fine.
As long as we get the proper amount of money back in the general fund.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
whatever that total is, that's gonna be exactly,
That total is very high.
we'll have to
So,
look.
you just made a statement that we have a DPW contract.
No,
No,
we-
I didn't say
no.
that.
Oh, I thought you
No.
did say that.
no, she didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
I'll give an update on the contract real quick, because that, what was that warrant, that check number, 10,000,
10,000, I got it right here.
yeah, it's on the first page here.
10,625.
so $10,625 for Connor Contracting. That figure is really a deposit that Connor will hand over to the metal building company that is designing and building the kit that'll be sent to the new site for our main garage building. The issue is at the moment that the contract for Connor Contracting is still under attorney review. We expect that to be ready for signatures by tomorrow or Wednesday. According to our attorneys, Carrie was on the phone with Dan O'Rourke, the town's attorney, frequently today.
Yeah, and
Um,
Mike Connor.
Mike Connor too. So I would say the way to go about this particular check would be within the motion to approve this stack of checks, we say that the town will hold that particular check until we've signed an acceptable contract.
Correct.
Anna can do that too.
Right, we'll just hold it.
Yeah.
And then once we have a contract, you know, we can put it in the mail or run it up. We're,
Just stay in the vault.
Yeah, well, there isn't any if. Connor, we don't have a contract with Connor. Connor's gonna take this money and pay one of his subcontractors. So that's all within the contract, and we do not have one. So Connor won't get the check until we get a contract,
Right.
right.
okay?
And the
And
reason
the other
we're-
thing is that we're going like this when we ask what happened, who followed through on the contract. And everybody's saying, well, this lawyer didn't follow up, that lawyer didn't follow up. Why didn't we follow up?
I can speak to
Why
that
didn't
too.
we know?
We actually can talk about that in executive session if you'd
Mom,
like.
but-
No, it's not something I'm gonna talk about in an
Okay,
open
good.
session.
But
we
I
can
want
cer-
answers.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
So
give them to you.
let's cut back on this a little bit. A little too much tension for my taking, being in the middle here. I will say,
Bigger than both of them.
well, I know, but you know how that is. But I will say, in regard to the attorney review for this contract, I deal with lawyers all year long for closings, HOA documents, and to get an attorney to review anything with any amount of expedience, especially when there's another firm that needs to review it for a second party, it's a real task, and that's kind of the net that we've been caught in, the going back and forth. But we can report that our attorney is fairly confident today that we will have a contract as late as no later than Wednesday, I would say.
Correct.
So, and right now we're waiting for some clarifications from Connor's attorney. That's where it's at right now. I can't speak to anything that was done previously, but that's where we are right now. And the reason we're asking, the reason that really the administration is asking the board to approve that check and then hold it is because that check is a deposit that needs to be handed out with expedience in order to get us on this subcontractor's docket. So we're trying to do it as quickly and as responsibly as possible. That's what it boils down to.
Okay.
Stanley, would you like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the general warrants for $83,738.21 and for Anna to hold back a check to Connor Contracting for $10,625 and whatever odd cents it is, if there's any.
Even.
Okay, until we have an acceptable contract. As soon as we have a contract, we'll
Right.
cut it.
Yeah, Anna will release the
Okay.
check
Right.
as soon as contract is signed and in our hands.
Okay, fair enough. Any more discussion on that? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Bruce, you
Yeah,
have,
I've got 2 warrants. Got a payroll warrant and a warrant for the industrial park. The industrial park warrant is $2,833.28. With $2,748.28 going to Dremick again, and $85 going to the Champlain Associates. Did you say you put new pumps in up there?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Work with the engineers. Carrie and I will be meeting with Tim Smith soon to go over the plan for that. The biggest part of that bill is the cleaning again. And then the smaller bill is the alarm system needed a new battery. That had wore down. That's what bings my phone in the middle of the night when
Yeah,
things are
yeah.
going bad.
So we get Strummick there quite a bit. I mean, and that's
It's,
because of the condition of the pumps? Basically.
There's so many food fats going into
Yeah.
that system that it clogs up, so
Yeah.
they're cleaning roughly 5 times a year.
Yeah.
This past year it was up to 6.
Well, there's more going through there now with the, they increased the size of Ben and Jerry's, and there's more production, so there's more waste going through there.
Exactly.
All right, thank you, Alan.
make a motion to
I'll
approve.
make a motion to approve the warrant, the industrial park warrant for $2,833.28.
Okay, any discussion, questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Paper warrants.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
but while we're talking sewer,
Okay.
Yeah.
Anna,
Thanks.
are we done with the sewer bond?
No. No,
How much?
I thought we were, boy. I looked at that and
no.
we paid Bank of America, and I think we're down to dollars now.
That's just the interest. Once a year we pay principal, once a year we pay interest.
Okay, we're almost
We're almost done.
close.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna celebrate.
Yeah, not yet.
I don't
Only,
celebrate.
is that the only debt the town holds at the moment?
She only got, the
Yeah,
only,
we don't have any
Only
equipment
debt.
loans or anything
I
like
build
that.
that back to all.
Right, it's a revenue neutral debt at that. I
Right.
mean,
We have.
I was ready to celebrate. Sorry.
there are,
folks.
no, I think it's wonderful to point out the fact that we are a municipality with a almost $1 billion grand list, and we have no debt to speak of. And we're paying cash to relocate our Department of Public Works. I mean, how responsible does that get? And I gotta think, you guys have been around for a long time, and Anna's been our clerk and treasurer, and Carrie's been the manager, and Jen's been here, and we've had Bobby doing great work up at the fire department. I mean, that's just the stewardship of the town's finances has been really something to admire and appreciate. So thank you all for all of that hard work.
it certainly has. It is quite an accomplishment, but on the same hand, we haven't done anything with our money either. So,
We're
we're
getting,
hoarders.
We're getting there now, though. We're gonna spend it.
Yes. All right, so I got payroll warrants now. The first payroll warrant is March 22nd, and it's for $22,525.32. Second warrant is first one was March 29th.
Correct.
Second one is March 22nd for $16,462.23. I make a motion that we approve both of these payroll warrants.
Discussion? Questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, our employees get paid. Thank you. Any more warrants out? I think so. Okay, so we're gonna move on to minutes now. We have the minutes from March 18th. Does anybody have any requests or comments, concerns with the meeting minutes from March 18th? Take a motion to approve.
We don't need a motion to approve these, though?
No?
Oh, we do, but you just don't sign them.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
we just don't sign it.
Right.
Any
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve minutes of the meeting for March 8th, Select Board
Meeting.
meeting minutes for March 18th, 2019.
Okay, discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so our minutes are out of the way. Now we're going to, if someone could please make a motion to recess the select board and to reconvene as the liquor control board.
I'll make a motion to recess as the select board and reconvene as the liquor control board.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we're here's the St. Albans Town Liquor Control Board. We have 2 license renewal requests, both from Bayside Pavilion for their first class license and then their outside consumption license.
You also have in front of you
One.
an outside consumption permit, which I left a sticky on, note on
We
it.
did, we, I've got it here. You've
Signed
got
it.
4 signatures on it.
Perfect,
Okay,
thank you. So
Al,
approve that.
We
Okay,
missed
that's
one.
it.
We approved a license and then we missed it in our stack of signature, documents requiring signatures. So if someone would like to make a motion to renew Bayside Pavilion's first class and then outside consumption licenses.
I'll make a motion that we approve the liquor licenses as presented.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And we will make sure these are signed tonight before we leave. I promise. Okay, so that's our business as the Liquor Control Board. Would someone please make a motion to adjourn the Liquor Control Board and reconvene as a Select Board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the liquor control board and reconvene as the select board meeting.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So here's an adjustment that I had asked to be made to the agenda just as an experiment. We had public comment after the town manager's report and then a few other reports for a long time, and the thought was that a lot of people might be here to comment on what was being discussed during those different reports and different agenda items. I think it can be done 2 ways. I think we can move the public comment up to above these reports right after we finish our quasi duties with finances and minute approvals. We could move it back to after the reports, but it seemed in my first 2 years, and I'm looking for input from Stan and Bruce more so than not, it seemed like we would get to public comment and people would have already maybe called out from the audience concerns that they may have had while things were coming up. And it seemed like the board at the time, when Bruce and then Bill Nyan were chairman, that they were allowing the town and the select board to handle questions as they were presented, instead of using public comment as the be-all end-all for that. So I guess I'm just looking to see how everyone feels about moving public comment further up the agenda so that anybody who might not be here to comment on any particular agenda item that might be further down the ladder could get their comment off their chest, ask their questions, and then leave maybe if the rest of the agenda isn't of interest to them.
So, Brendan, in thinking like that, I think it should be mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that public comment will be heard at the end of the meeting, giving people all of the information that we have on the agenda so that they'd have more to talk about at the end of the meeting, instead of having it halfway through. You have it halfway through, then you finish the meeting and there's more comments to be had. So if we just mention that comments would be heard at the end of the meeting and went through the whole agenda, I think it'd be more beneficial to the public.
Might it make sense to maybe have, is it possible to have 2 public comment items, one at the top of the agenda and one after the reports?
Yeah, but why?
I don't really think it's necessary. I
Anybody
mean, you allow, in effect, you allow public comment at each major topic anyway, so it's
Right.
just a matter of if it's not on the agenda and it's some miscellaneous item, you're just deciding where you want that to be heard.
Okay,
Yeah, but that's part of other business though at the end, right? Or they could be?
depending.
It could be, you're right.
It
we
kind of
kind
bled in and
So
out.
there are 2 opportunities to talk, anybody in the public.
And that's other businesses right at the end always
Yeah.
too. So let's see how this works, and if it becomes an issue, we can revert back to how we were. That being said, does anybody have a public comment? Okay, moving on now, we're on to the town manager's report. Carrie?
Awesome. So the first item on our agenda is just letting the taxpayers know and the select board know that, and our fire chief is here, so I'd welcome Chief Cross to come up in case you have any questions. On town meeting day, the town approved purchasing a new fire truck. You guys have, the select board has been sent the specifications for that truck with an estimated price, and so he's here to answer any questions you might have. And it, as exciting as ever, it's a lot of money, but it's below what you were budgeting, so I'll take that.
Chief, welcome.
How are you?
Good. Hey, I just want to thank you.
Looking very official tonight, too.
Well, I'd like to thank you for representing the town at the former volunteer fire department chief's services tonight in Fairfield. It's really, really awesome that you were able to do that. And we thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the truck. Is there anything you'd like to point out?
Actually, when we first started on the bid process of the truck, of course, we know what the town's policy is on the bids. We can't get anybody to bid like the last 3 trucks that we purchased. We couldn't get anybody to bid because it's quite expensive to have a blueprint drawn up and come up here and sit down, and it's time consuming and it's costly. And so a lot of these companies realize that they're not going to beat the current company that we've got 5 trucks in our garage already. Our local company is the company that we purchased from. Our local, our downtime is just about minimal. So they're second to none when it comes to service. And even if the truck was a little bit more money, which it never has been, they've bid against a lot of people, and the price range has been like the $20,000 to $25,000 bracket on 2 trucks that they actually had somebody come in and bid on. So with that, we actually got the equipment on this truck that we normally get on a truck that we didn't think we were going to get, because we thought we were going to have to really tighten the bootstraps on this one. But they've actually managed to get everything that we've wanted in this truck at a price that we can afford, as long as we pay up front like we have done on the past 4 trucks, I believe it has been.
So Chief, we have a vehicle proposal in front of us dated March 20th, 2019 by the company Desorcy Emergency Products LLC. They list the basic description of the truck that the town's requested, and they've given us a $24,500 discount for 100% prepayment if they received a check by April 30th of this year. So I'm thinking we'll see that and come up in a warrant pretty soon.
Well, that's pending your approval.
Okay. Well, the voters approved it. I guess
Correct.
we're just here.
They did approve it. I mean, we don't necessarily need a motion, we just wanted to make sure you were,
Right.
And if you had any
Comfortable with it.
questions,
It's already approved, so.
it is.
You know, the amazing thing is the years that I've been here, and you've purchased a few vehicles through the years, I can't believe how these things are going up in price.
yeah, because
I mean, they're going to be
This
$1
is the
million
most
bucks before you know it.
Is this not the most expensive piece of equipment we have in the
I mean,
group?
it's
in the
it's-
fire department, yes, it is.
Yes. So,
It's before the discount. It's $815,000. I mean, these things are going to hit $1 million soon.
no, I'm
Well,
sure
the
there are.
100-footers are.
Oh, yeah.
The 75 is where it is right there. And don't forget, that's with about $60,000 worth of extra equipment on it that we've gotten with our other apparatus. So,
The nice part about
The thing,
oh,
So the nice part about it is the voters approved $796,000, and this proposal after the prepayment discount is $791,000, and the chief saying that we are getting equipment on that truck that was not expected. So
Right.
kudos to you, I mean, for seeing that through. Another note I'd like to make, and while we have you here, is The proposal says that the final delivery will take place in approximately 14 months.
Correct.
So that's pretty average. And during that time, our current ladder truck will stay in service.
Correct.
And when we get the new truck in service, that's when the discussion, well, probably a couple months beforehand, we'll start the discussion on what you'd like to do
Well,
with our current truck.
I think what we should do, we've talked about this with the Sorcy equipment and everything. We should put the feelers out there and let other departments know around the country that this vehicle is going to be up for sale within the next 8 months or so, like we did with our tanker. We actually we did a contract and sold that truck, I think 3 or 4 months prior to taking delivery of our other one. So we sold the truck as it was, and it sold it with the contract saying that that truck would be in the same shape that it was when they paid for it. So I think we're looking to do the same thing with this truck. So we want to put the feelers out there to let people know that this truck's for sale. There's a lot of departments around Vermont that are really interested in this truck. So
Just like always, you're on top of it.
That leads to something else that I wanted to say, Chief, is these things are expensive, but you guys take real good care of them too.
They do.
I mean, I see your trucks out on the road and everything, and a lot of kids get googly-eyed about
our
the
guys-
shiny fire trucks.
every
take a
day
lot
the
of pride. I
trucks
mean,
are-
this community's given us everything we've ever asked for, and the least we can do is take care of it.
Oh, you certainly do.
So-
They look great.
Well, every day,
Exactly.
every day we see a truck, it looks like it's headed to a parade, whether it's headed
Thank
to
you.
a call or otherwise.
Thank you.
And
The guys take pride in everything that we have,
Well,
Yeah.
and they want to.
And you're known for it throughout the
We'll
state.
point
You're known
out
for the
that
quality of your
the
equipment.
the business arithmetic of a volunteer fire department, even with this expensive equipment, you guys not only provide a life-saving and property-saving service, but you save our taxpayers so much money versus a professional fire department in the long run.
Well, all the volunteer fire departments do that, and
Well, right, but
we're
we're
getting
looking
a
at-
short supply of volunteers. Let me tell you.
How
And
many are on the squad now?
we have currently we're at 28. We should have 34. So, but we're back up to 28 now. I got 2 that are just finishing the level 1 program. So.
Wow.
Do you have any more women? I mean, on your, I know you had a couple at one time, didn't you?
We've had women,
Yeah.
and they've produced just as well as the men do. That's for sure. And
One more,
and we'll take women.
Anybody, please
Overscheduled.
if you, in all seriousness though, if you have ever seen one of our department's beautiful trucks drive by your house and just had a thought in the back of your mind that, maybe I'd like to do that someday, never a bad time to reach out to the chief. I'm sure you'd bring folks on a ride along, show them the department.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we do.
about. Even if you decide against,
Yeah.
let your curiosity run wild on that one. You can't go wrong.
Are there volunteer opportunities even if you don't go through the level 1 training?
Yes, actually, Vermont, the Vermont Fire Academy has just adopted a 50-hour course, which is external firefighting, showing them how to raise ladders, operating pumps, handling hose lines on the outside of the building. It's everything but interior firefighting.
Wow.
so you don't need to go through the,
Right, that's if your department chooses to adopt that.
Right.
Right now, our department is strictly level 1 certification, and it doesn't matter if you're a truck driver or what. And we are, with the way the times are changing, we're gonna change that.
is the fire academy as busy as the police academy? Because I know a lot of police departments that are down in staff are complaining about the no openings at the academy to get people trained.
Right, that's the problem with the academy, but what the fire academy does, the fire part of it, is we don't have to go to the academy to be instructed.
Oh.
Our level 1 courses go out through each county. Each county is offered one level 1 course per year. The course starts in September and it ends in June or July of the following year. So I take that back, it's October, and it ends in June, July of the following year. So it's almost a year long. But they do it every year. Every county has one every year. And we're different parts. I think this year, actually our guys are taking it in Williston, because our county was full. So that's what our two guys ended up having to go to Williston, so.
Wow. Well, thank you, Chief.
I have something, and I talked to Chief about it Friday, and it hasn't been a problem, Bob, but it could be a problem for you and for the DPW director. And that is the voters approve putting money away so that when we come to purchase a truck, we don't have a fluctuation, a large fluctuation in our taxes. And you've always said, I'd like the voters to approve it. Well, they've already approved it. So I'm concerned at some point the voters are going to say, I'm shooting this down. And they've already approved it.
Right.
Or they approve it for you and they shoot Alan down, you know.
The money that we're currently putting away, that was voted for 10 years. So I'm not sure if it's to 2028.
Nope.
What year?
Well, we gotta relook at it. 22, is it, Carol?
I believe
Oh,
so.
coming up? Okay.
I believe it's
20
coming
days?
up.
I think
Yeah,
it's that
yeah.
for
2022 is we have to, Carrie and I have to sit down and
It was
put that
5
back
years.
on the ballot.
It
Yeah.
was 5 years.
Yes.
Okay.
His was 10 years.
I guess what I'm driving at, do we need to put, Bob, I know you like to do it, but do we need to do it?
I mean, they've already voted on it once.
Yes.
My biggest fear, when you brought that up to me, Stan, my biggest fear was at that point, we had some voters that I don't think were educated on what we've got going here. We've got a schedule, and the voters of this community have been putting away $122,000 a year. You've put that away. You voted on it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for 10 years, or 9 years now, or 8 years. And so we've got a little over $950,000 in this budget, in this reserve fund. So the first time you say no, that money's sitting in limbo because you don't get it back, because that's not capital budget money. That's money that you're putting away for a reserve fund.
It's restricted.
So it's restricted just for that. So the first time that you don't vote, so the first time that you say no, then this is what's going to happen. Truck's going to get 1 year more expensive, the one that you're going to purchase. The truck that you're trading in is going to get 1 year more depreciation. So what have you done to yourself? You just cost yourself more money. So if you stay with the program that we've got a schedule, and the schedule that we have right now is looking out for another, if we continue this way, we're looking out for another 15 years where we've got our trucks being traded every 13 to 15 years, getting money for the truck and purchasing the truck and not borrowing one dime.
So basically, all you want to do is make the people aware that the money's being spent, that they voted to put into this pool.
I agree. And if this board feels that is the better way to do it,
I certainly do.
I support it 100%.
I think
It's already gone before the voters, so.
we've had cases in the middle of the year where we're miles away from any type of a ballot where, like, our DPW directors come forward and said, hey, I found this piece of equipment, I think I can get this deal on it. And we felt that our hands might be, 2017, we bought a used backhoe and a brand new excavator, and we didn't ask anybody for it. Right? We did that.
We did
I
it
mean,
because
And
of
then
some
the bigger,
emergency.
the bigger problem
emergencies, but
is
still, we've
even,
done it. I mean,
But
we
you
set
can
a
do it-
precedence
you
already.
can do it 2 ways.
Yeah.
You can go back to the voters, like Chief Cross alluded to, or you can budget that money in your general fund every year
And have that.
and explain it to the voters.
Right.
And if they don't like it, they can vote it
the
down.
budget, putting it in the budget's the thing to do, because even brand new equipment breaks.
Right.
And you rely very heavily on tankers.
Yep.
Okay,
If
so
it's
what
something
happens if,
outside of that, Bob, then we should go to the voters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
That- Can we stand up and raise a hand and say, let's do it this way from now on?
Well, yeah, I would say we've
Sense.
got a lot of consensus. So, yeah, I think that's fair.
it's already been voted on.
Yeah.
Right, but it's gonna end.
Right, and then, and
Yeah.
the taxpayers will have the opportunity to
Well,
vote again,
I
on whether
guess-
they wanna put the 122,000 away again.
Guess what we're saying is we want to continue to operate the way we've been operating.
Right.
And let the people know that, the listeners.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other new business for
Thank
the
you.
chief? I will say that, I know you're already working on it, but while you're here, we haven't looked at our volunteer stipends in, what, 10, 11 years? And we should do that this year.
Carrie and I have been talking about it. We've been discussing different ways that we might want to change our stipends to maybe go an hourly pay to, and try and get it so we're still within where we are right now or a little bit more.
There's a lot of towns that are doing that,
Yeah,
and that's probably the most fair way to do it,
it might be a better draw.
because
Yeah.
you only get paid if you show up.
Right,
Well, that's,
right, correct.
I just wanted to put that on the board's radar. I'd heard that we were,
So we're working on that.
Okay.
Can I just
I-
ask a question, and it's something we have to check into? Do they become employees then? Instead of
No.
volunteers, because employees, obviously we have to,
No.
account for workers' comp insurance. So that is a question.
well, are they independent
Well, you still have
contractors
to,
now?
you still have to through
Yeah.
the volunteers too,
Yeah,
though.
that's true.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had a lawyer say they're still technically employees because we're paying them a stipend for their
Right.
services.
And you're
We're just-
insuring them too.
Even now they are,
We
right?
are,
Right, they're-
we're already,
right,
we already
they're-
have workman's comp.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're
They
already
don't-
there.
None of them work enough, thankfully, that they reach the permanent full-time
Do we take
status.
withholdings out of stipends, or do we just write a
Yeah,
check?
yes, we do.
So we're basically there anyway, it's just changing the payroll accounting. So,
So Bob, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do I get a ride on the boat this year,
Absolutely.
on the lake? Will you bring me back?
Ooh, I
Well, that was, you said one question, you didn't ask for two questions. Of course you can come back.
you might have to swim though. Oh, that's funny.
We have life jackets.
No, I really would like to go for a ride on it though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Round trip, yep.
Some Monday night, if you want, come on down.
Oh, I will. I want it. I look forward to it.
The boat will be out there Bay Day, so if you're around during Bay Day, just,
I'd love to.
That'd be awesome.
absolutely.
Great.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay,
Thank you, chief.
all right. Thank you.
Let's talk about the Act 250 notices before we hit the DPW, just in case that turns into a discussion. So we were noticed on two Act 250 permit amendments. One's an administrative amendment for the Mill River Holdings, which owns the Mill River Brewery. And then the second, it's an amendment, it's an active amendment for the same property we were noticed on the last meeting.
Yeah, they're killing a lot of trees, but the Act 250 process does generate a lot of paper.
Mill River, are they extended? Are they,
No, that largely had to do with the fact that initially they were required to put a sidewalk in, and we,
So it's something where the Act 250 coordinator can just make a
And-
change without the commission's approval
and Becky worked really hard though with Act 250. There's a new coordinator here.
yes.
are
Josh Genevieve.
the people that are running Mill River, are they the owners? They are?
Fitzgerald's.
Fitzgerald's, yeah.
Any questions on the two Act 250 notices before we move on to the DPW?
For Mill River, it says they will construct sidewalk along Lake Street, but they don't have to along Beauregard.
Right.
Is that what, okay.
Originally, they had told them they had to
Yeah.
build both, and we're like, you don't understand the
It's a
setting.
dead-end
It's,
road.
Yeah,
it's more of an
doesn't make any-
industrial.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
thought
Lake Street would be nice.
when we talked about Mill River a while ago, regional planning took the cookie cutter approach to that and said, you gotta do it even though it doesn't make sense. And I thought we talked them into waiting until we had our sidewalk master plan so that the sidewalk would fit in with what we were planning. We're not there now.
We're kind of partly there. I can't remember the details right now, but
I think we need to discuss that with our planning commission.
Is that
We
just
had
a
that joint
stretch of
meeting.
sidewalk just in front of Mill River?
Yeah, that's
sense is that?
we didn't want them to
We
put
need to
in.
make it a priority
It's
this year.
crazy.
We
I
did-
think
yeah.
it needs to be in our top
like
5
the
for sure.
sidewalk
And then
we
we
put in
need to
front of
delegate
Andy's.
and make sure we're, so let's center back. When we have a joint meeting of the select board and the planning commission, and that is scheduled for
29th. of
29th.
April.
Thank you, Jen. 29th of April. I think we should talk with the planning commission about where they're at and where we might be at with the sidewalk plan and any ordinance that might result out of it. And I think it would be a good idea to take that either policy or ordinance and then the plan and make it a priority and then delegate whatever work needs to be done to either the planning commission or the director of administration, and then just make sure that it's reported on until we see it in finality. I think we need to, I've been here for 3 years now, and they were working with the consultant on forming the sidewalk master plan back in 2016. So I can speak to Stan's.
15.
Yeah, I mean, I think they hired him in 2015. So we definitely would like to wrap that up. But to defend the planning commission almost, not to slight them at all, they had, during the same time span, they've had 2 bylaw revisions, they've had a town plan, they've had, stormwater work that had to be done. So with these volunteer boards, sometimes things either slip through the crack or get put on the back burner, and I think we're ready and we're in a place now where our bylaws are fine, our town plan is done, and we can take that back up and get it finished.
Yeah, and then again, the only thing, the thing that I have in mind is that small businesses are tough to run right now and stay in business. So why do we want to put financial stress on a small business to have a stretch of sidewalk put only in front of their premises with no sidewalks attaching to it on either
Yeah,
end?
we don't. No one on our side
No.
was pushing for that.
No, I'm saying that.
We had
Why-
talked about-
Even the state, I mean, it's tough.
At
They
the
don't always
planning
apply
commission
for
level,
That's not a cheap deal to do,
At the
even
pla-
that small part of sidewalk.
at the planning commission level, we had talked about giving developers or business owners or homeowners who may be required to put in a stretch of sidewalk, the opportunity to maybe the town would set a per linear foot cost on average construction, and in lieu of constructing in that particular location,
Put the money in the bank.
put that money into
In an
a
account.
sidewalk reserve fund
Right.
for the town to utilize in an arterial project, because right now we're developing a lot of veins, and we don't have any arterial sidewalks. So we're to the point now where we either need to make up our minds that, okay, we're going to apply for grants and we're going to put these arterial sidewalks in now, and we're going to get them done, and we're going to develop a plan, or we're going to tackle it over time by allowing folks, like I'll use Handy GMC Cadillac as an example. They have I think it's a 400-foot sidewalk that their trucks are usually parked over because nobody walks on it. And I know that one of the Handys had offered to extend the Walmart sidewalk down to the Maple Fields. And Act 250 and regional, because we do not have other supporting documents at the local level, said no, put it in front of your dealership. That's what we're requiring. That's what we're required to tell you you're required. So we need to get to the point where the town has developed either a policy or an ordinance that allows for a better approach, whatever we decide that is. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there this year, and we're gonna do it. And that's just gonna be the end of it. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's been something that we've needed to discuss.
Not
for a while.
planning, the planning commission.
No, but we need to discuss it.
And
For sure.
I've talked to the Act 250 people, and they're saying it's Northwest Regional Planning that's causing this problem,
Well,
so.
if that's the case, we need to have that discussion too.
It would be good to have the plan done and as a guide, because even the survey that was sent out to the community said people want sidewalks, they want
Overwhelming.
recreation, so.
Sure.
Overwhelmingly so.
And it's
And
been
just
going
to-
on for way
To
too
be
long.
fair, Handy's doesn't actually park their trucks on the sidewalk.
Pretty close.
They're
No,
being
they don't.
compliant with their permit.
No, they
Very
don't.
close.
Parking it very close, but
Very
not
close.
on
Okay,
them.
sorry.
I just don't want them to think.
No. My bad. But you get the picture I'm painting.
I do, I just don't want a phone call.
Don't like the color.
Sorry, Dave. And Jeff. And Bud.
All right.
So anyway, let's get back to, if there's no more questions on the 2 Act 250 notices, thank you for bringing up the sidewalks, Jessica. That sparked that whole conversation. It was very helpful. Let's talk about the relocation project for the garage and the salt shed. Now, I'd like to speak to that first, if possible, and have Carrie and Alan fill in if I miss anything, and then turn the floor over to them. We had a design meeting last week at Cross's office. We have another one tomorrow. They're weekly. The entire design team and the project manager meet. Carrie always goes, and so does Alan, and Bruce and I went last week.
I was there for a short while.
Right, and we had talked about the estimate that was in the paper about the salt shed that we had discussed. We discussed that over the phone with Matt Young. We had talked about adjusting either the construction of the building or the scope to try to get the costs in line, but still be compliant with V-Trans. That was a good discussion. I think some good will come out of that. Hopefully we'll be updated tomorrow. We had talked about, again, this contract that we had discussed earlier. We should have that done by Wednesday at the latest. That's a good update. Happy to give.
Can I be excused for a minute?
Oh, absolutely. Then we had talked about the, briefly at the end, we had talked about the sewer line easements through 2 private properties now. There are 2 different owners, and I would say from my view, and feel free to interject, that we had not pushed very hard to get anything in writing or executed in regard to the easements before we made sure that the voters approved the project. We hit a snag in February regarding some legality with one of our first choices for an easement location. We had to move on, and Alan actually did an excellent job of finding another property owner in the area who's been amenable to giving an easement for the sewer line extension, so that's back on track. Now our attorneys are working with the project manager, who will reach out to Alan, I'm hoping tomorrow at the latest, to gather information on both property owners, any terms they may have requested that we would need to discuss in an executive session, just to create either, not a purchase and sales, but an MOU dictating that the town will have access, reasonable access for surveying, the line easement will be so many feet wide. Just get the terms on paper and then hopefully get some signatures. That way we've got something in writing, and then now that the snow's starting to dissipate a little bit, it's still too early to get a wetland review for those sites, but I think we'll push to start the process of surveying so that these property owners can review at least some flagging. Am I right in saying that, Alan?
Honestly, I know I missed a week, so I was gone, but our attorney was recommending the actual easements, and we were actually pushing from January, February, and in parts of March, but we couldn't finish those easements until the survey for the easement was done.
Okay.
And the surveyor said he didn't want to complete them until the snow and ice were gone. So as much as we were pushing as hard as we could with the initial part, but the attorney couldn't finalize the easements, which would then go to each owner for signature until they did that final survey.
Well, an easement's a very tricky thing. You have surveyed coordinates that represent the exact locations within the agreements.
Has to be very specific. I asked him.
So we'll get to that point, but right now we're attempting to get the basic terms in writing, make sure everybody's amicable, get some signatures, and then get that thing surveyed, figure out if we need to do some boring due to wetlands, if there's a cost benefit of looking at permitting, we need to have those discussions. We budgeted for boring, if I'm correct.
We did, and they don't believe that we need a wetland permit, but the final determination has to be made when they do a site visit after the snow and ice melt.
So we might have the discussion in the next few weeks on whether or not we want an independent wetland review from a licensed delineator to take to the state. A lot of times it's better as a property owner to present them with your case and have them go from there. If you allow somebody from the state wetland program to come in and do their own delineation, sometimes you might not like what they find.
Our first choice is not to go there at all.
Okay, well, if you're going to ask him to sign off on boring, he's probably going to want some, Alan's been in talk with Army Corps. We're as on top of it as we can be with the weather.
Of course, as long as we're boring outside the buffer, we didn't need any permit from them. It's up to just talking and waiting for the state.
Boring outside the buffer. boring outside of the wetland buffer?
Yes,
If we're outside the buffer, why can't we just do
they
whatever we
still,
want?
they still care.
That
Army
doesn't make
Corps
sense.
says as long as we start our boring on the outside of the buffer, we don't need to deal with it.
And then go under?
Correct,
Okay, so we get out of the buffer, go under a wetland with the boring,
right,
and then come back up out of the buffer.
yes.
So that's what we're looking at. Okay, so there's some
Army Corps
surveying that
says
needs to
we're
happen.
fine, and usually the state follows their lead, is my understanding. That's what the Army Corps told me, so it's just a matter of getting the state out there to.
We're working on it.
I
Does the
don't
board
think
have
the
any?
state will come as long as there's frost in the ground though.
It'll
Will they?
probably be April.
As long as the snow and ice is gone, they should be able to see what they need to do. They
They're-
can tell by the
So-
type
so-
of grass and stuff.
So they were okay with directional boring then, huh?
The Army Corps, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they prefer it.
Yeah, but
And we had budgeted
less
for it.
disturbance.
What's the length of the directional boring you're planning on? The furthest one,
The furthest one, I think we're looking at like 1,600 feet.
1,600 feet? So if you're at 1,400 and you run into ledge, you're,
They usually back up and take another stab. They're actually pretty talented with those borings.
can we get on the railroad property and just trench?
Well, the second property that I looked at is right along the edge of the railroad. But once again, it's, even though it's a parking lot or whatever, it's considered the buffer zone of a wetland. But
They
even though
need-
it's disturbed, they might allow us to dig through, but
They might allow
We
and
just-
waive. On a buffer, they have a little bit more leniency.
well, I think they're gonna look at the fact that it's been disturbed, turned into a parking
Parking lot.
area. so-
The new directional boring equipment has become so sophisticated, it isn't funny. I mean, it'll actually dodge stuff, and as far as directional boring, it's much, much quicker than trenching. And,
Oh, yeah.
the boring's the way to go if we
More
can get it done.
expensive too.
Well, we budgeted.
Well,
You know, the old days, if you were gonna dig,
depends how many times
if
you're
you're gonna
gonna do it.
bore 15 feet, they used to dig a 15-foot hole and set the machine in it and then bore. But now they can set it on top of the ground and actually, drive it anywhere
It's pretty amazing.
it needs to go.
And back when they used to do that, you used to have to spin the boards on by hand.
Yeah,
Been there and done that.
yeah, me too.
The machine does it now.
Now, does the board have any other questions
Yeah,
about the?
the DPW building, we've got the money approved, we got a contract, we know how much that building is going to cost. Where we go, shocker, 2 weeks ago was $287,000 short on the salt shed.
And
So-
based on an estimate.
Well, it was based on
Some
an
figures.
It was
Right.
based on an estimate.
from an estimator and some
Yeah.
smart guessing, I guess, from some contractors said they could probably do it at this price.
Right, it's not a final.
Yeah.
Now,
bid.
I understand it wasn't, but, so
So,
what, from our estimator, what is the analysis of where did $287,000, where'd it come from?
so I asked him that point blank. I said, Matt, I need an answer on that. And he said that his recollection was that he had mentioned it to the board somewhat passively during a meeting that the street numbers that he hadn't had time to confirm back in, I think it was January, he said. And I'd have to look. He said that they were around 850,000 for construction, and he thought that we had said after some crosstalk that we should be able to build it for 600 grand. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to. So he then, in making our budget for the ballot, according to him, and Matt, forgive me if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me if you ever watch this, but he said that he programmed 600,000 for construction costs because that was what our gut instinct was, and then did an estimate on $87,000 for soft costs related to the V-Trans grant and design. So we budgeted $687,000 for the salt shed, not including the deduction for the grant. So then, in the middle of February, we all got an email that I literally texted Carrie about it like 4:30 in the afternoon because it shocked me. 4:30 in the afternoon in the middle of February on a Friday, the worst day, we all got an email with an estimate for $970,000 and some change. And my heart went to my throat.
Yes.
Because I knew we had ordered ballots. I knew that that difference in pricing between 687 and 970 was more than our program contingencies. But we had a number on a ballot, and we're going to work with it. You know, the board, I think, will commit to. We're going to try damn hard not to go back. We're not going back and asking for more money for this project. I don't see it happening. So here's a couple things that happened last week to adjust the salt shed and hopefully lower costs back in, probably not down to the 600,000 range for construction, but a little closer. We had talked, and this was Alan's idea, and he's researching it along with Matt right now, for instead of building a truss roof up high, maybe lowering it a bit, and then instead of building shed roofs off the side for the lean-tos, raising them up a bit and doing a scissor truss. And then instead of doing 6-inch concrete slabs underneath the lean-to areas for cold storage, we would do the concrete work, pour tubes, concrete tubes below frost levels for the posts that hold up the roof structure for the lean-tos, and then pave it, and then set our trusses after the walls were done and after the interior slab was poured. So we would pave it instead of a 6-inch slab and then make some truss alterations. And then one thing that the project manager was researching were precast concrete walls to see if we could cut down on some labor and time related costs to, you know, pouring walls on the spot. So I'm kind of looking for him to report back to the design team tomorrow, and I'm going to attend that meeting. Alan's unable to because of a training. Anything that comes out of it, just on an informational level, we will make sure the board's made aware of it. We're going to communicate as much as possible. And Matt explicitly did say that he will, once the project ramps up into probably another gear, he will provide us weekly professional updates that are a quality that we could even go as far to post on our website for the public to review, if we choose to do that. So I've asked the board to think about what direction we'd like to go with Matt's updates. If we'd like to put them on our website, I think it'd be great if we could, personally, but we're gonna get to the point where more information is compiled, and I know he's got smart sheets, but it's so hard to, you get 15 smart sheet emails a day from every update he makes.
Right,
it's hard to follow them all.
Right.
So if we could get them compiled into one PDF on a weekly or bi-weekly basis saying this is what happened, this is the part of the project it's related to, you know, this is the current status of it, okay, next item. And I think that's what we're getting to now. So look for those in the future. Other than that, it's, you know, it's a $4 million proposition.
Well, we're still looking
We're-
at, you know, ways to save money on concrete. Matt supported Bruce's idea from the last meeting about changing it from, I think, what, 10 to 6?
Well,
or
we
8 to
took-
6?
We decided to keep it at 8 inches at the recommendation of the structural engineer.
He made a comment, Carrie, at the meeting
Oh, he
that,
did?
yeah, that he didn't recommend us going any thinner than that. But, what I got out of this meeting is that, you know, we can't do anything about what's happened in the past. What's been done is done. Let's just look forward and try to get this thing down to what we can afford. And as far as the meeting went, when I got there, they were still talking about changes for the garage itself. I mean, we got a contractor on board, and a good contractor. Okay, we've got Alan. Okay, we got Matt. Why don't we just let the building go and let them build and concentrate on the salt shed?
The one
as far as
change-
I'm concerned, the building is a done deal.
The one change that was estimated to save us around $20,000 to $25,000 was recommended by Mike Connor from Connor Contracting, was to lower the pitch of the roof, as you've seen in our renderings, from a 312 down to a 212. It would eliminate, 6-8 feet worth of that extra space above the doors. Snow load would be fine. We'd be fine. It's fine code-wise. And then let's get he recommended we take the roof systems for the wash bay and the office portion of the building and put them right in line with the main roof structure.
Yeah.
So we said, yeah, for that amount of money, it's, you know, we'll still have inside corners and indents for delineating the office and wash bay. It was a no-brainer, I think.
So Mike guaranteed me that he would continue to do his valued engineering till the last nail has been nailed.
Right.
So let's get out of the game and let these guys do their work.
Yeah, I agree.
All right? Let them do their work
I agree.
and concentrate on getting the salt shed in the same position.
I think we made some strides last week. I'm interested to see what Matt has to say.
Let him go. Matt's a good guy. Connor knows what he's doing. Let them do their business.
Do we have any more comments on?
One little
DPW?
piece of business, we actually did get a building permit, so you'll see
Wow.
on site if you're going by that there's a big red P on site, so, I believe we're almost done
The 2
waiting
week.
for that, but
15
anyway, so
days.
we put it up a number of weeks ago, so progress.
Good.
Take the little steps and we can.
When do we? We'll ask again tomorrow. Now that we have a better idea on when our contract will be in place, but we'll ask for the April 15th meeting to get a timeline on when we might see some mobility up there.
Yes, because honestly, what Becky pointed out, and I know that Matt and Mike Connor are aware of this, you might see some earth moving, like I said at the last meeting, even before they actually start building anything. You have to do a whole lot of
Oh yeah.
prep.
So
Let's just call it prep.
we'll give the public another update on the 15th, one way or another. So barring any other comments, let's move on to schedule. Is everybody all set to move on to schedule?
Yeah.
So I moved schedule up to above other business because it felt like last meeting, other business was a nice, opportunity for us to operate with a round table.
Did we finish the town manager's report?
Yes.
Town manager didn't say nothing. You didn't let her talk.
Oh, I know, right? I'm terrible. Well,
I did do some talking, but it's fine. I am
Okay.
done, thank you. No
All
new
right.
things. We're good to
She was
go.
out last week, so we
Okay.
spoke about that meeting.
What about-
but- So we, what's that?
Oh, okay, we didn't mention Hungerford, but okay.
Yeah, we did.
We did?
Went over that. Yeah.
Okay.
So schedule, our next regular select board meetings are Monday, April 15th and Monday, May 6th at 6:30 PM. We have a joint select board and planning commission meeting on the 29th of this month at 5:30 PM here. We invite the public to attend that. We're going to talk with the planning commission on what we think our priorities for the year need to be, and we'll move forward from there. No additions, subtraction. We have our volunteer dinner on Monday, a week from today, up at the
Correct.
Legion, 5:30, catered meal. All our volunteers are invited. Aaron, Sarah, Jonathan. Please let Carrie know if you'd like to attend, if you haven't already. So one thing that I added was, before I came forward to try to be the chair, I researched some styles from different communities. And one thing that Tim Smith does in the city is he has a mayor's report. And it's an opportunity for him to update the council on anything he might have seen going on in the community. He uses it basically at will. I have a few things tonight I'd like to ask the board about, or talk to the board about. The first is a letter I penned myself to Bill Nyan on our behalf that we'd like to give Bill on the 8th next week. He said that he's coming. Does anybody have any concerns or suggestions in regard to that letter?
I don't.
I think we should make a motion to approve that, just to be able to say that we did so.
That's fine.
So if someone would make a motion to authorize me to sign this letter and to award it to Bill next week at the volunteer dinner.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Brendan to sign the letter that he wrote for Bill Nyan in recognition of his years of service.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, I have one happy thing before I move on to one sadder thing. Last Friday, we got that storm out of nowhere, that wet, heavy snow that just seemed to want to break every shear pin and every piece of equipment everybody owned. I took a ride along for like, I don't know, 3-4 hours with Alan, and I got to see our DPW crew in their natural habitat during, I went home at midnight, and hats off. I mean, honestly, the work you guys do and the work ethic you have, and your whole crew, they're lively, they gel really well, they get along great. Thank you for all your work this winter. Hopefully you don't have to do any more midnight shifts, but God, who knows.
Oh, that's it.
But anyway, so we had also talked at our last meeting, and this is the last thing I have before we move on to other business. We had talked about forming an honor wall with Mr. Frank Montang and Mr. Steve Wexler being our first honorees. And this honor wall would go somewhere in this boardroom. It would have a delineation of the St. Albans Town honor wall or our honor wall or something like that. First, I'd like to ask either Jen or Alan or Carrie to volunteer to pick up the mantle of getting that done. Or Anna, anybody who would like to just, this is my duty, I'm going to get it done.
It's mine.
Your decision.
It's mine and Jen's to get done.
What's your decision? Okay, so.
It is, it's ours.
So if we could have that done sometime by the end of April, just to put, middle of May, just to.
We will try to get done as soon as possible. I gotta get a picture from the family from Steve.
Okay. And then.
Have you contacted Mrs.?
I have not yet.
Yeah.
So we've got to reach out for pictures, and I unfortunately would like to make one addition to our honor wall. We've lost our longtime town clerk, Mrs. Eleanor Goodrich, who was here for decades, provided a lot of really quality service. We lost her yesterday at what age, Anna?
Hey, David. 86.
Good, how are you?
86. And I think it would only be
That's what Brendan's talking
fitting to add Miss Goodrich to our honor wall as one of the first 3 pictures to be hung. And I would like the board, somebody on the board, to make that motion.
Go ahead, Stan.
I'll make a motion to add the Mrs. Eleanor Goodrich to the honor wall in the St. Albans Town Boardroom, along with Steve Wexler and Frank Montang.
Thank you, Stan. Any further discussion? Any comments from the audience? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we thank Miss Goodrich, wherever she is, for all of her years of service, and we give our warmest and sincerest sympathies to her family moving forward. So thank you. That's all I have. Does anybody have anything other under business?
I do. So specifically around, well, I have 2 things, but the first one is around social media. So Facebook, people are used to communicating that way and asking questions. And over the weekend, I went to the Selectboard Institute down in Rutland. There are 133 new Selectboard members from around the state. So we were getting training on open meeting laws. So now with Facebook, if you post something, another Selectboard member maybe makes a comment and a third likes it, all of a sudden you're in violation. So I know we're not all active on social media, but I could see it kind of getting confusing with different people commenting, or, if Brendan comments and then I comment, we could be at risk. And I was wondering if there was some way that we could have the town just be the only one commenting on town issues. And I know it's done in a variety of ways. And where I work, initially, we all had access as administrators and were commenting. And then now we've turned it over to one person handles all the comments. And if we have something that we want to add, we'll let her know, and then she'll write that in. And we're also the eyes and the ears of what people are putting on Facebook.
Well,
So I just wanted to see if you knew what other towns were doing.
I don't know what other towns are doing. We have had an informal policy of asking, I don't think I see any actual until now. I don't, any select board members commenting on things. We have one person, well, two, Jen and AJ, who generally monitor our Facebook, all weekend too, sometimes, not all weekend, but on the weekends. So that if something's really offensive, we do have a policy about that, we can remove that comment. But generally comments go through either myself, or once I approve them, Jen and AJ.
Well, public information though, from the board, isn't that between you and, the chair?
Yeah, we don't
Like
generally.
newspapers, stuff like that. so
Correct, right.
Why shouldn't it be the same for Facebook?
Well, we,
True.
like
We can add that.
Facebook,
I mean, it's like putting it in something in the newspaper. I couldn't tell you, I don't go on Facebook. You wouldn't have to worry about me. But,
we,
I didn't even know how to get on it, so
agree, maybe we need
I
a,
saw that cake you made.
maybe we need a more, formal policy, and maybe when we amend our rules and procedures, we could put that in there as far as social media goes. And maybe we could look to either VLCT or neighboring communities to see what they might suggest we do.
So someone asked me a question on Facebook, and I was like, ooh, what can I say?
Well,
Should
we
I
actually
be
ha-
channeling this to you?
Yes,
And then you
that's
comment.
exactly what we do. And honestly, we had tried a Facebook, or there was another long name that VLCT had for it a number of years ago. It wasn't terribly popular at the select board level, so we just left it alone by saying, we're gonna follow, like Bruce said, that press outreach policy. And we could add to that in our own way, but VLCT has a template, but the template is 6 to 8 pages long.
I
and it-
still think it's information going to the public, and we use the same
Yeah,
procedure we always have.
makes sense.
You too.
Okay, I think that's fair.
And the only person who has admin access actually are AJ and Jen right now. I don't even post it directly. I don't know how to do that either. I do it, but that's how we try to control it.
I do know from at work that some of the stuff that goes on Facebook can, if a person's not careful, it can cause quite a stir.
Yeah.
Well, let me say that, to preface this a little bit, the Messenger put out a copy, well, they put a teaser out for bigger articles that they write. They put
Yes.
half the article up and then they say, for more, please subscribe. So they put a link up for that type of an ad for the doc article that was in Friday's paper. And they put that on Facebook. And we had, 20 people that might have commented, clean up the water first before you go and make that nice. Like, why you want to put up chairs next to stinky water, stuff like that. And, Jessica and I talked briefly about how, we'd like there to be somebody that just takes that type of a concern and points it to, the town doesn't have the authority to, or maybe we have that weed harvester grant that we applied for years and we harvest weeds, maybe we do that, but we're trying to spend maybe 10, 15,000 at most, maybe 10. And we're not trying to spend the 10 million it might take to firmly clean up that water.
Well, that was kind of leads into my second question. To clean up the lake is a huge national, state project. It's not all on the town, but people were asking, like, what does the town do to help with the lake? And I know there's a lot with, wastewater runoff that we deal with and the road conditions. And I just thought it could be helpful because those were the types of questions I was getting. I was like, well, maybe we could just share what we do.
But the
to help
advice
with the
that
lake.
we've been given on Facebook is to be short, very brief, and not to engage because there's no way to control the conversation.
Yeah.
So
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So our tact is, and it's been advised to just simply, if you have more questions, ask the town manager. They're gonna go to the, if you have more questions, contact the town manager and keep repeating it. And if they get more aggressive, to remove that comment, because there's no way you can win in a conversation.
Well, 90% of the time, the people aren't even going to make that phone call.
If they,
Right.
because stormwater by itself could take up, I could spend 2 hours drafting a response and probably not even hit all the highlights. It's a really extensive, complicated topic. So I agree that we need to do that. The board supports our stormwater and our, our stormwater permit efforts, but yeah, I hear you on that. It's really to just not engage. It's the only way that, and I know there's a full-time person even in South Burlington, I thought, that does social media. I mean, it's
I
not a
hope that's
full-time
not
job,
gonna-
but they spend a lot of time.
Right,
That's
no,
not gonna
it can
do-
turn into a full-time job.
So we
for-
just have it as other duties as assigned right now,
Yeah.
and we'd like to leave it like that for now, but maybe engage a little more.
Yeah, or if I'm on there and I see something, now I'll just reach out to you guys and say,
Yeah.
could you respond to this comment?
Absolutely,
That's
and
fair.
we will, and we've asked people, like, given phone numbers and emails before, and just leave it at that.
Yeah,
I hope that's not gonna deter us from our plans with the dock, though.
No.
I mean,
no,
With
you
the-
know,
because-
most people who I've spoken to have been very positive.
Yeah.
Anybody that
It's-
understands the actual scope of what's going on, I think it supports what we're doing.
And I mean, the cost of doing the dock through grants is nothing to the taxpayer, whereas to clean up the lake is,
Yeah, well-
you know, millions. I couldn't even put a price tag on what it
You know,
would cost.
somebody said
and the
that-
amount of time it would take.
you know,
I mean, it took
50,
decades.
50
Right.
years to make that mess. It's
Right.
not gonna get cleaned up in a couple of summers.
Right,
All good?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad we had that discussion. Stanley?
When you mentioned VLCT, it seems like it's been a while. We were looking for a template for marijuana sales. And we were waiting for something to come from VLCT. They didn't have anything at the time. I wonder if they've done anything. Because we're talking about putting an ordinance in where
Yep.
we don't
and-
want to sell it by the school. They wanted to do some restrictions on it, so.
Right.
It's been another year, we can ask them. At that point, when they got back to us, the board
gotta
kind of
excuse
said, all
me.
right, I guess we'll just wait to see what's recommended, but nothing has come forward.
Nothing from VLCT yet. Well, it's terrible.
It's
It's terrible.
Maybe we reach out
Mentioned
again.
something at the training that a town can put on its ballot to opt out of being a community that
Wow.
sells any marijuana. That's an
for a
option.
dispensary, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think we reach back out to them and see if anybody else has taken up that discussion
Yeah.
in the last year and see what they have to say. I agree with basically zoning restrictions.
Yeah.
Disallowing that use in areas close to schools, hospitals, parks. You
We
know,
wanted to know what was gonna be legal for us. to
right.
do. Yeah.
so is that, we're gonna reach out to VLCT, see what they have to say, and then go from there?
Yeah.
All right, with Bruce back, I know we had a longer meeting and we might have anticipated. I've got one more thing for us, and that's last week, Thursday, I was able to meet with Tim Smith and have a discussion on city-town relations and where we might want to go as far as communicating more. We're already working really closely together in so many different areas that it would take too long to list. But one idea that had come up that I find really intriguing is having a joint meeting of the city council and the select board in a location with an agenda to be decided. I think it only would help us to get in the same room and either hear from staff on how they already collaborate, you know, maybe talk to each other on mutual issues like stormwater, or we share a police department. Maybe we could highlight some of those statistics that Stanley found and maybe talk about any joint effort we might want to take to try to remediate those problems. I think there can only be good from talking to one another. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything, but if we can find some common ground on certain issues and work together, I think we'd only have more lobbying power in Montpelier. And we'd have more of an opportunity to apply for mutually beneficial grants. I was wondering how the board felt about a joint meeting.
Well, everything that you mentioned in the paper pertaining to that has been thought of more than once, but we never follow through on anything. I mean, we've wanted to meet with the city council before. I mean, we had something going with the mayor and the previous mayor on, you know, working together and letting the rest of the state know that the feud was over and we're one. We're not
Right.
that Mason-Dixie line and all that no longer exists, but I'm all for it. Anything we can do to improve our relationships with anybody, I'm all for it. It's only beneficial. There's nothing.
And if there was an issue that ever came up that was more regional that required us talking with Swanton or Highgate or any other communities or Georgia, I think we need to be ready to do that. You know,
We did.
we did
We have.
with
We have.
with wind and whatnot.
In the
yeah.
city, the last time we met council and select board, right in this room.
So maybe we
We have never been invited back neither.
well, let's take a look at what we can do to organize something, and we'll try to put something together. And when we get to the point where we're ready to schedule something, we'll get in touch to make sure it works for everyone.
It'd be good. Let's make it beneficial, though. Something worth meeting on.
Well, right. I mean, we had talked about like select boards and then village
I think
trustees.
just meetings beneficial. To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about how village trustees meet with select boards on quarterly basis, and we might not need to do that, but maybe once every 6 months we just expect to have a joint meeting to go over what we're cooperating on, and to get status reports, and just to put it out in public and let reporters and the public know that we're already cooperating more so than most municipalities do, even if we have had some animosity in the past.
I don't think anybody ever did a better job of that than what Bernie Boudreau did when he had his. He had a pretty good working relationship with the previous mayor, and Bernie was working on things. I think that could have went someplace if he hadn't of. There was reasons that came up that he had to leave, but he was working on a pretty good. Had something good going.
Well, let's get back to it. Start hammering out some progress. So, other than that, if anybody has any other business, please bring it forward. Okay, anything more, Carrie? Nothing?
I don't think so.
Okay, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll have the motion to adjourn.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.